I don't understand why they won't take it back. I only wore it once.
Was it on the sale rack?
There was a sign, very small letters, right next to the price tag. I'm starting to see what happened here.
Final sale means exactly what it says, Marcus.
I'm Marcus.
And I'm Kayla. Welcome to Almost Fluent.
Today we're talking about shopping, returns, and exchanges in American English, how the whole system works, what to say when you're standing at that counter, and what to do when the answer is not what you were hoping for.
So the first thing worth saying is that America has a genuinely generous return culture. Most major retailers will take something back within 30, 60, sometimes 90 days with no questions asked. That's the baseline expectation here. Not a favor, just how shopping works.
And it genuinely isn't like that everywhere. I had a coworker a few years ago who just moved from South Korea, and the first time she returned something without any pushback, she came back to the office looking genuinely confused. She'd prepared a whole explanation and everything.
It surprises a lot of people from other countries because the assumption elsewhere is usually that once you've paid, the transaction is done. You check everything carefully before you leave the store. Returning something just because you changed your mind isn't built into the system the same way.
My mom basically still shops like that, and she's been in Ohio her whole life. She inspects everything before she buys it, like she's looking for cracks. She would never buy 3 sizes to try at home.
Returns are built into the business model here. Stores expect it and price for it. So if something didn't work out, bringing it back isn't an imposition. It's the system doing exactly what it was designed to do. You shouldn't feel like you're causing trouble.
That's worth saying clearly, because I think even people who know the policy intellectually can still feel awkward at the returns counter, like they need a really good reason.
And you really don't. The policy is the permission. A coat that didn't fit is enough. A blender you used once is enough.
I actually still have the blender. Still in the box. It's been about 6 weeks.
6 weeks is well inside most return windows. What is stopping you?
I keep forgetting it's there.
Marcus, it's a blender.
So when you actually walk up to the counter, there's a specific shape to how you start the conversation that makes the whole thing go more smoothly. You say, "I'd like to return this," or "I'd like to exchange this." And then you say what you want, not what went wrong, what you want.
Does the order actually matter that much?
It changes the tone of everything that follows. If you lead with the problem, "This broke after one use," or "The color looked nothing like it did on the website," you're essentially handing them a complaint and waiting for them to respond. If you lead with, "I'd like to return this and get a refund," that's a request. Same information, completely different energy, and a much easier yes for them to give you.
I have been leading with the full story my entire life. Sometimes I give background, sometimes I describe what I was thinking when I bought it.
You can save all of that for when they ask. They will ask what they need to know. Your job is to make the request clearly and then let them run the process.
Okay, what do you actually need to bring? Because I have lost a receipt inside of 48 hours before.
In an ideal world, your receipt, the original packaging if you have it, and for clothing, the tag's still attached. That's the version where everything goes smoothly. But most stores can look up a purchase if you paid by card. They'll ask for the card you used or the email address on your account. So a missing receipt isn't automatically the end of the conversation.
That is such a relief. I once stood at a counter, accepted that a pair of shoes was mine forever, and walked away because I couldn't find the paper.
You can always ask. The worst they say is they can't find it, and then you're in the same position you started in. You haven't lost anything by asking. One thing people often don't think to ask about is the difference between a refund and store credit. A refund means the money goes back to your original payment, your card or cash if you paid cash. Store credit is more like a gift card that only works at that specific store.
And stores will sometimes offer store credit when they won't do a full refund.
All the time. And if you don't know to ask, you might just accept it without realizing you had another option, which is fine if you like the store and shop there regularly. But if you're returning a gift from a place you've been to once and have no plans to go back to, store credit isn't very useful.
I have $40 sitting in store credit at a home goods place I went to for a housewarming gift. I have never been back. I will probably never go back.
So the phrase that helps is, would I be able to get a refund to my original payment method? It's polite, it's direct, and it makes it easy for them to say yes. If the answer is no, they'll explain why, and at least then you know what you're working with.
Is it okay to push back a little if they offer store credit straight away?
Once, yes. Something like, is a refund possible or is store credit the only option? That's not pushy, it's just making sure you understand what's available. But if the policy is store credit only, that's the policy. Asking the same question twice with a slightly different expression on your face is not going to change anything.
I've definitely tried the second round with a slightly raised eyebrow, like somehow that tips the balance.
It does not tip the balance. Which brings us to what happens when the return is refused entirely. Final sale is the main one, and you have direct experience of this today. If something is marked final sale or all sales final, that means no return, no exchange, no store credit. It is a hard limit, and stores enforce it consistently.
Very consistently, I can confirm.
The other common reasons are being past the return window, 35 days on a 30-day policy, for example, or returning clothing with the tags already removed. Some stores won't accept something without its original packaging either. The rules vary slightly from store to store, which is why it's worth asking about the return policy before you buy, especially on anything marked down.
Is there a way to ask that without sounding like you're planning to return it before you've even paid for it?
You just ask directly. What's your return policy on sale items? Or, is this returnable? That's a completely normal question, particularly on something expensive or something you're buying as a gift. No one is going to read anything suspicious into it.
So let's say you're already at the counter and the return has been refused. Is there anything actually worth saying, or is it just done?
There's one question that I think is genuinely worth having ready. Is there anything you can do? That's it. You say it calmly, without building a case first or citing the policy back at them. Just, is there anything you can do? A lot of the time, the person behind the counter has more flexibility than you'd expect, and an open question like that gives them the room to use it. If the answer is no, you say thank you and you leave. But it works more often than you'd think.
Is there anything you can do?
What were you planning to say?
I had a whole thing prepared. Screenshots, the original listing.
Put the screenshots away, Marcus. Try the 6 words first.
And if the 6 words don't work?
Then you tried and you leave with the jacket. But the reason the calm approach works better than arriving with documentation is that nobody wants to feel like they're losing an argument in front of their coworkers. If you give them room to help you, you're much more likely to get something, even if it's small, than if you put them on the defensive from the start.
That applies to a pretty long list of situations outside of retail, honestly.
Most situations involving other people, yes.
That is our episode on shopping, returns, and exchanges in American English. Thanks so much for being here. Whether you've got a bag of things sitting by the door that you've been meaning to return for 6 months, or you just want to know what to say when you walk up to that counter, hopefully this helped.
Returns really are just part of how shopping works here, not a confrontation and not a favor you're asking for. Know what you want, lead with the ask, and if something doesn't go your way, 6 words go a long way. Is there anything you can do? And remember, the best way to get comfortable with English in real situations is exactly what you're already doing right now. Listening to natural conversation is where it actually sticks. So keep tuning in, and it will come.
She's not wrong. We'll see you in the next episode.
See you next time on Almost Fluent.